Welcome to the Munchkin Minute, your bi-weekly look into some tabletop gaming news and more. I'm your host, Dan, the Board Game Man, and this is your news for September 25th, 2023. First up, I want to talk about a bit of an industry kerfuffle, if you will. It came up about 2 weeks ago, shortly after I recorded the last show, and it centers around a Kickstarter that I even talked about for the more Terraforming Mars with Stronghold Games. Now, it was seen at the very bottom of the campaign that Stronghold Games will be using AI to help with art for the new cards in the game. Now, I'm not going to go into huge details, but maybe many people missed this, including me, because it was buried at the very bottom of the Kickstarter page. It was probably only there because the new Kickstarter rules state you have to disclose anything if it is being done or anything is being done with help with AI now. So most people just kind of missed it, as you can see with over $1 million raised. So we had a lengthy discussion on the last Geek All-Stars about this. Now, my co-host, Chris Kirkman, he's a publisher with Dice Amy Games. He's also a graphic designer. We also had designer Matt Riddle from Motor City Gameworks and a friend of the show that was on, Brad Smoley, who was also an artist. So it was a really good discussion covering many facets and views from this whole thing. Now, many people are kind of outraged, and in my opinion, rightfully so, because a lot of the AR, there's a lot of thievery or stealing of assets and stuff. And there's a lot of kind of conscious to be able to, whether this basically is good to be doing or not. And a lot of people have chimed in from artists, publishers, designers, and such, and including, there's a really good thread that I saw today from Justin Jacobson, the owner from Restoration Games. He put it up today on Twitter, so it's got some really good thoughts on there as well. And I'm not trying to take any sides here. I'm trying to obviously trying to stay a little bit editorial out of this, but obviously there's very many sides to this story as a whole, and we're just using AI and art and stuff like that for extra years, whether it be a tool or replacing. I'm just trying to report the news here. Obviously, I don't like it myself, if you want my original opinion of using AI art in this sort of way, but do some searches out there, and there's a lot of sides to this story and a lot of sides to this coin. And of course, go to majorspoilers.com and comment on this show and give your opinions over there, or let me know your thoughts, or come to MunchkinLand thread on the Major Spoilers Discord as well to chat. I love to hear everyone's thoughts on it. But no matter what, no matter what weird or funny matter of it all is that it didn't seem to bother any backers. I wouldn't say any. It didn't seem to bother many backers, as that new Kickstarter for Terraforming Mars, it made over $1 million, all the new stuff for Terraforming Mars. And obviously with that much money, you can afford to pay your artist. But anyway, again, I try not to get into it, but I still give a little bit of opinion there. But anyway, you didn't see a whole lot of people really with that big of an outrage hurting that campaign at all. So who knows? Maybe we'll see some more. Maybe they fix this in some way, or we'll see some more, as the time goes on. Next up, per Eric Martin on BGG, Synapses Games is going to release a new edition of Hisashi Hayashi's Yokohama. That'll be out in Q3 of next year. I think it's going to be right after Gen Con. I think they're supposed to have it as a release at Gen Con. But they've got to have new art to the game. It's kind of like going to be a little bit more, very artistic. It was very kind of rigid and a little bit more blocky in the old Tasty Minstrel games. I really love this game, and Tasty Minstrel's actually made a really good production value of it. But the art does look really cool, and they're going to be putting out the new kind of dual layer player boards. In the past, with the Tasty Minstrel games, to keep costs down, they have like kind of a one single layer, kind of your game board is just there and you put the pieces, and things on there. But this is going to have some really cool double layer game boards on there. And they're also going to have some other upgrades and such, including previous promos that were released for the game that'll be out. So, and in Synapses will also be releasing new versions of Yokohama Roll and Write and the Yokohama Duel, both of which I missed, but I'm very, very interested in. I don't even think they got a huge wide release over here in the US, but I really wanted to check both of them out, especially Yokohama Duel, because I really love that system and I really love that game. So if you like kind of heavier Euros, Yokohama is a really cool game for you to check out as well. It may be out of print because obviously Tasty Minstrel Games doesn't exist anymore, but there may be some maybe some copies floating around, or it'll probably be a huge release and be on many people's top to buy next year at Gen Con. So I'm sure you'll hear more about that from me next year. Now, per a press release from Lucky Duck, I saw that they partnered with Splatterspellin for putting up a Kickstarter, I believe next month, for a special edition of Food Chain Magnate. Now, of course, Food Chain Magnate is a very heavy Euro game and widely loved game. And this new edition is going to include the expansion and have just kind of a special edition that's only going to be on a Kickstarter and not as a retail release. It's going to be a much more improved version over the other ones. Not that the other ones were bad, but anyway, this is going to get the pretty much special edition treatment. So more on that when it is up. I'm sure you'll hear from me that I will mention it, part of the crowdfunding when it does, crowdfunding roundup when it does come out there. So in games showing off at Essen this year, as we move on from kind of that Kickstarter-ish talk, games from Essen, we'll talk about Ludonova, a game from Ludonova that's going to be released over here by Asmodee is Armistrar. That's going to be released this year. I mean, released this country or over here in the U.S. next month in October for $50. This is a pretty cool Mancala-based board game with some worker placement. It is a 1 to 4 player game. Plays in about an hour to 2 hour. It's kind of a medium to heavier weight Euro, but it does have some really cool mechanics to it. I don't know a whole lot about it, but what I do really know is that they show some pretty cool Mancala-based gameplay in there. I just like that mechanic in sort of Euro games in which you're trying to get kind of different combos of your cubes into certain areas. There's a Feld game that did this exact type thing. But I just really like this sort of thing game. So anyway, check this one out. I think it'll be a pretty solid game. And of course, I love it because it's got solo version. But if I get some more information on this one, I'll put it out. But I have not seen or played this one. But it is kind of a pretty cool heavier Euro. And Ludonova puts out some good games over there. So it'd be cool to have this one over here now. All right, next up, Garfield Games has said Scholars of the South Tigris, easy for me to say, should be releasing in November of this year. I know they're kind of getting all of them delivered from that Kickstarter. I believe I covered this Kickstarter back in March of this year, and it was $65 at that time, so it should be about that once it is released. This was a pretty cool one. This was kind of worker placement with dice as workers there, and it centers all about, 830 AD, and you're kind of using manuscripts and translating manuscripts, using dice as workers and having the different languages and different translators. Just kind of right up that same alley as a lot of those other South Tigris games and a lot of, McDonald and Phillips old games with a lot of the, same kind of mentalities. Just fun worker placements with using your resources, doing other things, and just fun Euro fare, kind of a medium to heavier weight Euro. 1 to 4 player games, plays in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Which should be a good one. Another little kind of mini editorial for me, or a little, paired with this next release. So Ravensburger has teased, and they kind of showed off Disney Lorcana Rise of the Floodborn. Now, this is the second set for this trading card game, or CCG, that's going to be out in December. So I only bring this up because of the craziness of this. Now, we're essentially getting a second edition or a second set of a product. I guess it's more of a second set. It's a product that many of us can't even get yet, and they're over-limiting it to the friendly local game stores. Now, they didn't get nearly as much as they ordered, and nobody else really seems to be getting a lot of it at all, even at other wide releases. Now, let's give you an idea of what I mean by this. So over Labor Day, and that week I dropped my son off, driving from North Carolina to Canada to drop him off at prep school, and I had a couple of stops now heading up to Canada from North Carolina. Now, that's about 10 states, 2 countries. Now, everywhere we stopped, I went into Target and Walmart at every stop that we made kind of to stay overnight. And also into Canada, I went into the Target and Walmart. And on the way back, that's whole next week. So I went into 10 different stores in those 5 to 6 different states that I stopped in. And in, again, 2 countries. And I couldn't find a single product which could be, which was supposed to be widely released on September 1st. Now, I know there's many reasons as to why they're not out. They kind of were put out on the shelves earlier. But this is still my point. If you can't get a CCG type game and you're going to release the next set a few months later, you're running the risk of killing your own game. And that's before it even starts to get a foothold over the actual players, not the kind of collectors and resellers. Now, other games with great IPs, looking at you, Star Wars Destiny and some Dice Masters, they just killed themselves with scarcity. So, to be honest, I played Lorcana. It's fine. It's a fun game. And it's not, oh my God, crazy good of a fun, but it's a fun game. So I like it a bit. But Ravensburger just needs to get more product out there and better coverage of their said product. And the events, too. I mean, the people are doing kind of the events, but there's just not enough product out there to have a good release and to have a good product, and you don't want it to fizzle and fizzle and just be gone before it even gets started. So a little bit of information there. So I just thought I'd go out on a little tangent there and a little rant for you. So Next Move will release the latest version of Hey, That's My Fish. Speaking of a great game, this is a family classic. This will be released in October for $35. Now, this is one that's had a gazillion publishers over the years, and it's an absolute classic. Now, this is kind of, this is a predecessor for games like the new hotness Boop. Hey, That's My Fish is 2 to 4 player game. You can play this in about 20 minutes. Very lightweight, very family friendly, very kid friendly. It's a really cool game. Basically, you have all these different kind of fish tiles that are out there, which basically represent kind of, an iceberg. And as you move a fish, you pick up the tile that you move. As you move, you pick up that tile and you move in a straight line, stopping somewhere. And as you stop, the next turn, you're going to be picking up that tile. Now, what ends up happening is you're going to create little different ice flows there, and you're trying to get the most fish at the end of the game. But kind of as you're also trying to kind of close yourself off from the other penguins, that the other players have. So you're basically trying to, close yourself off so you get all of those fish on that little ice flow. And it's really, really fun. Really cool, good, thinky game in a way especially for kids, kind of the thinking ahead and strategy. It's really cool to see how they process that. It's an absolute great game. You should check it out. $35. Looks like a good game, good production value. It's going to be out. I think you can find it in the old days for like 20, but I think they're trying to do some sort of kind of bigger production to this with kind of little pieces of the, penguins being a little more fancy and such. So we'll see how that one looks. But anyway, I recommend that one to everybody out there. So next up, Square Enix is going to be releasing a version of, it's basically an RPG based on Final Fantasy XIV. And then they're also going to have a card and board game called Final Fantasy VII Remake Board Game Materia Hunter. Well, that's a mouthful, and I don't know if they'll just call it Materia Hunter or what, but on their site, that's how they have it listed. It's going to be out in April of next year for $45. They list it as a competitive game for 2 players, 1 versus 1, or 4 players, 2 versus 2, where players compete to collect the most materia using abilities of the iconic characters from Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, looks like it could be a fun game. It'll be, wait to see. I didn't see anything kind of real written on BGG, so we'll have a link to the Square Enix store and for the kind of that pre-order for it. And it is $45 listed on their store. So it'll be interesting to see if this one is decent or not. Finally, in news, Cool Stuff Inc. is phasing out board game sales and RPGs, which is kind of an interesting news tidbit, and they're going to be focusing just on kind of the TCG and CCG sales. Now, I mention this because, they were a great place to buy board games and also to let you, spoiler rights, know that they're going to have this sale going on. It's up to 50 to 75% off. Now, there's a lot of things that are out of stock, and there's still some things left in stock as of this recording, and you might be able to find a deal or two. So I'll have a link to the Cool Stuff Inc. site in the show notes, so you might be able to find a really good deal. But you're going to have to check it out quick because these games are going fairly fast. So, hey, let's head on over to crowdfunding. First one I want to talk about is Millennia. This is by Juma Al Juju of Karma Games. This is an interesting kind of Euro game, which says 14 up, a 1 to 4 player game, or about 30 minutes per player. Now, I mention this because it's kind of a Civ building game, not really a 4X, but a Civ building game. But what's really cool is as the game goes on, kind of feels kind of like Civilization, Sid Meier's Civ in a way, because what happens is as you're kind of going throughout the different ages, eventually technologies are going to be phased out and obsolete, so you'll be losing access to these. So this is going to be, really open up a new kind of strategy as you're playing the game. So that one looks pretty interesting. You can get it for about $31 US on their page, and on the Kickstarter. About 2 weeks left to go as of this recording, and it is well funded. Next up, another theme that I'm just kind of a sucker for, Theme Park Mania. So I love the theme park type games. This is a build a theme park together. Now, this is kind of interesting as the early part of the game is you're building out the theme park. All the players are kind of building out the routes and the roads around the theme park, and then you're building kind of the different attractions. And after 4 attractions or a certain amount of attractions get built, then you're kind of sending out your workers or your meeples to, I guess they're kind of your visitors, meeples, out to the different attractions in the theme park. So interesting, kind of cool way of playing it. 2 to 4 player game. Again, this is by Meeple Master. You can get in on this one for about $53 US, or there's a limited first edition for about $77. But it looks like kind of a fun game. Next up, Fromage. This is make, age, and sell artisan French cheeses in a simultaneous play worker placement game. This one is designed by Ben Rossett and Matthew O'Malley, two designers I absolutely love, but they've got a really cool thing to it where it's kind of has this 4 different almost like, I guess you would call them cheese piece wheels. But what's cool about this is you have these different kind of inserts that go into and under the pieces, and kind of all, you can rearrange the different areas each time you set it up. And then these kind of the in and outs of kind of the pieces that you put in. Now, depending on how these go in, that really changes how the board layouts are and where you can go in a different, really looks cool. This is by Road to Infamy. You can get the standard edition for $35, and you get this limited edition that I think has kind of a Lazy Susan to it. That's for $49, and then there's our retail pledge as well. Looks really cool. These are two designers I trust and love. This has got about 2 weeks to go and well funded as well. Next up, a game that probably everybody knows is out there, but if you ever missed, if you like solo games like me, if you really like solo games, this is solo only called Final Girl, and this is by AJ Porfirio and Van Ryder Games. Van Ryder Games puts out a lot of great games, and they do a really good job with solo games. The Final Girl is an absolutely great game to play. And this is Series 3. This is almost about 2.5 weeks to go, and it's over $1 million, well funded. You probably knew about this, but I wanted to mention it just in case you missed out on any of the other Final Girl games. If you do like playing solo games and different challenges to them with a really cool theme, this one is going to be for you. Next up, Barrage New Lands. This is by Cranio Creations. I absolutely love Barrage. This is a very, very heavy, way heavy game, but what's cool about this one is you're going to have new game mats, and I believe there's going to be a solo version that's out there, and you've got the different pledges where you've got the Colorado Connection Dual, New Lands, and Retailer Bundle. The Colorado Connection has got a new map and new tiles. Dual is a new map and a dual board. I guess this is kind of the 2-player map as well. Another kind of New Lands map, and also the Retailer Bundle. And I believe they will have a solo version, I think is included in this one. I think I read that. Just can't seem to find it as I'm scrolling down here. But anyway, you've got plenty of different pledge levels. You can get the Colorado Connection, which is just basically the map there, and some add-ons. This is about $16 US. The dual map, about $16 US. The New Lands, $26. And then, of course, there is a retail pledge. And, of course, you can get these all together. This one is real small to go. I think they'll probably have late pledges if you want, but it's less than about 3 days left as I'm recording. It is well funded. But I do like Barrage, and I think you should check it out. But also, if you already like Barrage and you're looking for someone to play it with, definitely go on to BGA because it's up there on BGA, and it is an impeccable, a great addition on BGA, I have to say. Really, really good. Finally, on Kickstarter, I've got one. I'll have one game found that I kind of mentioned, but my last one I'm here on Kickstarter is Ivion Crossroads. This is season 3 of Ivion. And I mention this because Ape Games put out Ivion in the US here, and I really think it's a pretty cool system. It's a 1v1 kind of dueling where you're each one, it's a 1v1 kind of card deck duel type game on a board. It's really fun. I think I played season 1, a couple of the different ones there. This is season 3, where you can get the different, different packs or the different boxes. There's a season pass for $99, or you can get one of the Clash packs for $39. It's a pretty fun game. So check this out if you do like 1v1 kind of card games. I just want you to check it out because it may be something that you've never heard of. Because up until, I believe, last year, I hadn't heard of it when I got to play it for the first time. But again, Ape Games puts it out here. This one is being put out by... I guess this is the main company, Luminary Games, that puts it out. Again, it's a few days to go, about a little less than a week to go, and it is well funded there as well. And finally, I mentioned this one last week, but I wanted to mention it again here. Creature Caravan by Red Raven Games. I absolutely love Ryan Mallory Lockett from Red Raven Games. His art is fantastic. His games are great. This is a new game, Creature Caravan, or you could also get kind of the updated version of Islebound on there. And also, they're going to have the RPG for their whole game system, the World of Arzum game system RPG. Now, I know Ryan Lockett has worked on RPG systems for years and years and years, even before, I think when he was just an artist and working on that. I don't think he even before he even got into board gaming. But Islebound is a great game. They got a special edition of that. And also, like I said, Creature Caravan, which is the new game, which got a pretty cool theme in which you're trying to protect creatures from the different zombies that are across the land. Pretty cool kind of simultaneous gameplay there. I think each one of these things is $50 each, or you can get everything for $150. but they've got the 3 different things. And you don't have to get all 3 of them, but you can get, kind of piecemeal, if you will, or a la carte, if you will, there. It is well-funded. There's about 2 weeks left to go in this whole kind of game found there. Thanks for joining me today. If you think there's any news you'd like me to feature, shoot me a message at GeekJockDan on Twitter. And also, please check out Majorspoilers.com for more content by Steven and the rest of the Major Spoilers crew. And also, check out the Geek All-Stars podcast. We just put a new show up there. We talked a lot about board games, card games, and TV, the usual. A whole lot of everything. And also, like I said, we got into a really good discussion about AI in art, which I talked about today as well. But we go into a lot more detail as well. As always, I'm Dan, the Board Game Man, and I'll see everyone in a couple of weeks for another Munchkin Minute.
This podcast is copyright 2023 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.